Hello, ladies and gentlemen, friends, comrades. You are all welcome once again to another edition of Wednesday Palaver. First of all, I'd like to thank the teeming Ghanaians who made themselves available on Saturday for us to commemorate the Ghana's Day of Shame. It was a very, very exciting event. The political message was very clear. I would like to thank all the Ghanaians on social media who join us in whatever way to mark this very important day. We are very, very grateful. Let's continue the discussion. Let's keep Nkrumah's vision and political program alive. Today, we are going to have a very, very important discussion around the crisis that has been happening in Boko. I think 2 weeks ago, we heard the President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, say that Ghana was standing strongly behind Ukraine. And there was a very, very important rebuttal to that position. That look, what is your position on the Boko crisis? Why don't you solve the crisis that is happening in Boko before thinking of standing behind Ukraine? So today we are going to extend that discussion further. There are a lot of social, issues that are coming up as a result of that conflict. And we have invited one of our distinguished guests at Pan-African Television in the person of Dr. Mohamed Mazouk Abubakar, who is a lecturer at the University of Applied Management. We are grateful to have him here. He is a long-standing admirer of Pan-African Television and the Pan-African Project, and we are inviting you to help us digest this matter. Please welcome to the platform.
Good evening to the cherished viewers. Good evening to all of you here. I am much more humbled to be given the opportunity to stand before eminent personalities of your caliber and those watching us online. And I am grateful. It is important for all of us to understand that conflict is part of the life of humanity. But at the same time, it is also the responsibility of the government and non-governmental institutions, the citizenry, and any other interested in the well-being of the state to do everything possible to prevent conflicts. First of all, I am much more disturbed about what is happening in the Boko conflict. And this discussion, as I have been told, is designed to review the issue within the context of education, how the conflict impacts education in that beautiful town of Boko. It is important for us to understand that there is copious empirical evidence about the correlation between education and peace. This implies that education and peace are twin values that are critical to the well-being of humanity in all civilized communities. It also tells us that without peace, we cannot have quality education. And with quality education, we can have lasting peace. So both of them can come together to build society. But in a nation state like Ghana, there's no way you can discuss either education or peace or even conflict resolution without examining the ability of the state and the readiness of the government to handle these issues to the admiration of at least majority of the citizenry. And that is where we will have very difficult discussions on the issue. First of all, ours is not at all to attack the government or to blame the government in relation to this burning issue. Ours is to discuss the issue dispassionately and perhaps to offer certain suggestions that could be considered in the interest of peace in that region. Statistically, conflicts all over the world affect the quality of the life of humanity, particularly education. The United Nations figures are indicative of about 400 million children living in conflict zones. Out of these figures, we have about 240 million children whose education has been disrupted by conflicts. So it is important for us to consider Boku as one of the unfortunate conflict zones according to the United Nations figures. And therefore, since Boku is an integral part of the Republic of Ghana, the rest of us living outside that town cannot be at peace when our brothers and sisters are living in a conflict that threatens even the territorial integrity of the Republic of Ghana. We are told that Boku is a place where some insurgents are trying to use as an opportunity to enter this country. And you all agree with me that Ghana has been hailed in so many quarters as the beacon of peace on the continent of Africa. And therefore, it is important for all of us to help the government, the national security, the good people of Boku, the traditional leaders, to ensure that this conflict is brought to an end. One, how do we ensure that the conflict is brought to an end? I propose a combination of suggestions. And one suggestion is that we are young ones and we do not intend to address the elderly. Of course, in line with African tradition, we do not have the capacity to speak to the elderly, particularly the traditional authorities. But as members of the youth group, we have the responsibility to address fellow youth. You may agree with me that in every conflict, the youth are either the major combatants or the major victims. And therefore, we are appealing to the youth to allow good reasoning to prevail in search for solution. In simple language, we are calling for the silencing of the guns. You all agree with me. You don't need to be a security expert to know that the youth are the manipulators of the guns. They may have conflict laws within the society or outside Boku who may be giving them financial and economic support to continue the murderous enterprise. But at the end of the day, they are the leading actors, the actual combatants. They control the guns. So we are appealing to them, irrespective of their ethnic background, to silence the guns. The second suggestion goes to the perceived financiers of this conflict. It has become a reality in contemporary society that every conflict is run by conflict mongers or conflict contractors. These mongers or contractors must cease to sponsor the conflict. Irrespective of their ethnic and political background, they should consider the collective interests of the people of Boku, the collective interest of the town of Boku, the collective interest of the citizenry around Boku, to ensure that this conflict is brought to an end. Let them cease funding this conflict, and in the end, we will not remember how they have listened, but how we have all become beneficiary of the solution to the conflict. The third suggestion I want to make is for the parliamentarians around the Boku area. And because when you talk of the Boku conflict, of course you are not referring to Boku Township alone as the conflict zone. You should also consider the surrounding areas. These parliamentarians should come out with something that I will describe as a legislative solution to the conflict. Irrespective of the differences in political orientation, they should come out to engage the youth and the traditional authorities, so that at the end of the day, people will understand how dangerous the conflict is to education. Then the last one is an appeal to the government of Ghana to perhaps re-strategize so that we can have a solution. I'm using the word re-strategize because I do not believe that the government is not doing anything. But of course, it has become clear that the effort of the government is yet to yield any positive results. We commend the government for the effort so far, but we appeal for more, perhaps an innovative way of tackling the issue. In this case, I am calling on the government to reconsider how the troops are deployed and how the troops handle the issue. Experts are of the view that the military command in Boku is not only for the Boku conflict, but to protect our borders. And I think this combined mission of the military must be appreciated. But we appeal to the military to consider the nature of conflict resolution and peace maintenance in contemporary society. Brutality is not at all something that can be used. I strongly believe that the military will be able to find a solution, or will contribute effectively to the search for solution if they have a sense of healthy relationship with the citizenry. Brutality or military might not be the admired solution or even the effective solution. This is not to say that they cannot defend themselves, but they should try as much as possible to consider the contemporary ways of conflict resolution in handling the issue. I think my presentation has been unconventional. Unconventional in the sense that I have decided to give the solutions before the discussion of the main issues in relation to education. We all agree that the conflict has had a very negative impact on educational delivery in the Boku area. We have all been witnesses to the closure of schools periodically because of the conflict. And we are also told that in any conflict zone, critical thinking, which is required for quality education, reduces. The mental pressure affecting the people, the parents themselves, will lead to the reduction of the quality of thinking. Children are no longer having access to education, and those who have the access to education are bombarded with defective educational delivery. And this does not at all help the children. We also need to understand that education in contemporary society is to build a harmonious society. Is to build a harmonious community. And once the children are taught by the lessons in the war that hatred is something that they should abide by simply because of their support for the combatants, definitely that value of building society will not be found among the children. So we should try as much as possible to look at the issue in a very holistic manner, not because of our ethnic superiority, but because of our national aspiration. And our national aspiration is to ensure that Boku, like any other place in Ghana, is well developed. The development of Boku can be seen only in a peaceful atmosphere. I have had opportunity to visit Boku since infancy. And when I look at the Boku of yesterday, which never lacked anything, and the Boku of today, which has become a shadow of a successful town, then of course my heart bleeds. And it is important for all of us to understand that Boku is strategically positioned economically, socially, culturally, and politically. And because of all these dimensions, the issue in Boku should be something that should be concerning to anybody in Ghana. It doesn't matter whether you are from that area or not. It is important for all of us to understand that we have a collective responsibility to find a solution to the issue. When we are here to talk, it is not that we want to lambast anybody or we are not satisfied with what has been done. It is because we have come to a stage where our silence will be an act of connivance. We have come to a stage where talking becomes an obligation and not an option. We have come to a stage where our little ideation could also contribute effectively to solution to the conflict in Boku. We have come to a stage where we have a responsibility to engender national discourse on the need to be serious about conflict in Boku. We commend the government and other agencies which have done so far well in trying to find a solution to the conflict. But just as we have already said, these efforts are yet to produce any better results. And that is why we cannot cease to talk. I strongly believe that Boku is important to all of us. And issues in Boku should be a matter of concern to all of us. It doesn't matter where we come from. Boku is part of the Republic of Ghana. And the Republic of Ghana cannot live peacefully when we do not find a solution to the issues in Boku. In as much as we have the responsibility to talk, let me also issue a warning that we should be very cautious in our diction, because when you are dealing with a conflict situation, then your diction should be promotive of peace and not promotive of further violence. We should try as much as possible to be very decorous in language. Those who have the opportunity to speak must make sure that they have a national duty and a patriotic responsibility to maintain lingual sanity. And this lingual sanity will contribute effectively to the search for peace in Boku. Let us not reduce ourselves to irresponsible characters behind the megaphones of war. Let us prove the whole world that when we are given the opportunity, we can responsibly offer suggestions that could be considered as part of the search for peace in Boku. We should also try as much as possible to let people understand that we are not here to attack anybody. Irrespective of how we have conducted ourselves, those we speak to must also be fair enough and responsible to understand what we are saying. We, once again, are not addressing the leaders. This is an opportunity for us, the youth, and we, the youth, must use that opportunity to appeal to fellow youth to do everything possible to ensure that they are disciplined patriots whose mission is to ensure peace for effective development of Boku. And once we are even going to have an election, definitely the Boku conflict is much more expected to play a very crucial role. Let this role be constructive. Let us all resolve to stand by the values of peace rather than violence, unity rather than division, reconciliation rather than aggression, forgiveness rather than vindictiveness, and unity and then peace rather than violence. If we are able to do all these things, in the end, we will not remember the discomfort of our struggle to find peace, but the comfort of our victory to attain peace. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, I strongly believe that together we can conquer, and we can only conquer in a state of sincerity. Let the government play its role very well, and we, the citizenry, especially the youth, will also respond to the strategies. I strongly believe that the collective mission of ours is to ensure peace, irrespective of where we come from, irrespective of which political parties we belong, irrespective of which religion we belong, irrespective of which tribes we belong. We have a collective responsibility as Ghanaians to ensure peace. And anybody who is not interested in the peace of Boku must be named and shamed. And if we are able to do this sense of name and shaming, definitely we can figure out the patriotic ones and the dangerous ones. And we have a responsibility to deal with everybody who is not interested in anybody who is not interested in peace in Boku. We are humble souls, and we are appealing to our brothers and sisters to consider the future of the youth, whose ultimate objective is to get quality education to become responsible citizens of the Republic of Ghana. You do not need to be an educational expert, a sociologist, an anthropologist, or any other social scientist to understand that the conflict in Boku has a very negative impact on the educational well-being of our children, who are expected to handle this nation as the future leaders. We are appealing to everybody. And let me conclude by saying that this is a collective responsibility. This is a responsibility beyond politics. This is a responsibility beyond ethnicity. This is a responsibility beyond partisanship. This is a responsibility that we must all uphold, so that in the end we will not at all remember how we have suffered, but how we have conquered. Brothers and sisters in Islam, this is what I have for you, and I pray that with your support and by the grace of Almighty Allah, we will be able to find a solution to the burning issues in Boku. God bless our homeland Ghana and grant peace unto all of us. Amen.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Now we will open the floor for the studio audience to make comments, ask questions where there is no clarity, and then we can invite Doc again to come and respond to them, and we'll have our social media comments also, and then we'll draw the session to a close. So let me see by hands those who want to make comments. Yes, 1, 2, 3, and then 4. So we'll start with you. Come to the microphone.
Thank you very much, and good evening, fellow comrades. My name is Abdul Ghani Mahmoud. I work at Islamic University, and also I'm an MPhil student at University of Education, Winneba. I'm an indigenous of Boku. I was born in Boku. I started my education in Boku, and my primary, secondary in Boku. Doc, thank you very much. I think Doc has spoken a lot, and he has touched the sensitive parts that we need to talk about. But what I want to add up is to focus on the children, how children are, schooling in Boku. What has been the problem since the start of the conflict in 2022, I mean the recent spark, and the challenges that the children are facing in Boku till today. You see, there's a saying that education is very important and is a key catalyst for socio-economic and political development in every nation. So if you look at education and other countries and you compare it to Ghana, Ghana is the model that other countries look up to when it comes to education, and especially children, the education of children. And as the saying goes, that education is the movement from darkness to light. But here is the case that in Boku today, we have rather moved from light to darkness. And it's something that is serious and it's uncalled for. So today, if you go to Boku, you realize that, just as Doc was saying, it's a very interesting town, a lovely town. It's a very beautiful place to be in. The business activities goes in there smoothly, and it's a place that people make a lot of money because we are closer to two borders, Togo and Burkina Faso. So if you get in there, you could see that any small thing you are doing as a business, you're able to make money out of it. But today, what is happening in Boku? I was going through a newspaper that was last week, and I heard the director of education for the municipal was saying that since 2020 to 2023, there has been a drastic dropout of students from 878,000 to 468,000 intake of students. That is between these 4 years or 3 years. You could see that the intake of students is dropping. Students no longer get the opportunity to go to school. Children don't have access to education. No books. I remember my sister was calling me the other time to buy her my second copy book from Accra, because all the bookshops in Boku has been closed. No bookshop. And if you know Boku very well, the bookshops that are operating there are people who are not the natives of the town. Only one bookshop belongs to it, and nobody can open a bookshop because the town is no good. Children don't go to school again. You don't have access to books. Then how then do you study? How is your education going to move forward? So this is something serious that not only we the youth, but everyone should also put his effort in making sure that this town gets what it needs, and that is peace. So the education of children in Boku is something that we have to look for. Not only the government, just as Doc was saying. This is a communal labor. It's an individual responsibility. We all, be it international, we call on international agencies, local agencies to look into the matter and make sure that we have a peace where children can go to school, learn and become who they want to become in the future. Without education, as Nelson Mandela said, the education is the tool that we can use to change the world. So without education, it means that we will keep on being where we are, and we will not go anywhere, and we are not getting to where we want to be. So I want to use this opportunity to urge on everyone to come together. So we call on agencies and government to ensure that there is peace in Boku. So there will be peace in Boku. We pray and we hope that with these kind of discussions that is going out to the people there, it will serve as an educative tool that people will consider very importantly, to make sure that they consider the points we have raised and come together and know that we, the youth, are the future of Boku and the future of this country. Thank you very much, Doc.
Good evening, comrades. My name is Isaac Akuka Agudbila. I'm a native of Boku, and though I didn't stay there much, but since 2008 till now I've been around Boku, and I have a little bit background information of what is happening around the area. Previous years, you can just hear that there is a gunshot in Boku, there's a shooting here, and within the next minute you get there, and if they tell you that this is the place they were shooting, you will not believe. They just shoot, then all of a sudden they come together and they are doing things, economic activities, everything is going on well, just like nothing has happened. So it happened that way. Happened 3 days time, it happens, and then they will reconcile. But you realize that about 3 years now, when this conflict, rekindled, it has gone on non-stop, and it has become more dangerous than ever. And in the other way, those days, it happens within only Boku town. And people around the other areas, the relation of Kusak, or let's say the Boku traditional area, they feel comfortable moving anywhere they want. But this time it is not like that anymore. It cut across almost every part of the place, even including other areas of Upper East region. Areas like Waliwali, cars have been stopped there and people have been, let's say, harassed, cars bent, areas of Nalerugu. So it has now become more of national peace, peace threatening than that of Boku and then people of Kusasis and Mamprusis, as it is well known to be. And this one, I was very happy when Dr. Mohammed Abubakar did mention of the members of parliament, MPs around the area, or the lawmakers, have to do something about maybe having a legislative instrument to do that. And I think if they listen and they resort to do that, will help us, because we have 6 administrative districts within the traditional area with government representatives, and we have 6 members of parliament. And I think if they look beyond politics, and they have to they come together on around the table discussing, regardless the political party you belong, and they really sought to solve the problem in Boku. I think they can't. So I want to also appeal to them that they should help, because this time it is very, very dangerous, and I think going forward, if something is not done quickly, it's not going to be good for us. Thank you.
Good evening, audience in the studio and viewers out there. I'm Ezeruenwa, socialist member, Pan-Africanist, a Biafran. Dr. Abubakar have done justice to the case by making several civilized proposals for supposed conflict committee of Boku. I don't know much about this very issue. I always believe that the whole Ghana is very peaceful, as we used to see in the Chinese river, but to understand that even any part of a country is bleeding, the entire country is bleeding. I come from a country that is very synonymous with conflicts. So, and also I'm surprised that the conflict in Boku only affects children and the education. Other sectors are they okay? No, you are very lucky. Because I'm aware that when a conflict is somewhere, everything, social, economic, are completely down. It's affected all sectors of life. And that is why conflict prevention is always the best. As human beings, as I want to allow to claim that by virtue of human nature, we are political animals. So conflict is a part of who we are. But the important thing is that when it arises, how do we handle it? And perhaps from what I heard here, maybe there have been some efforts, but maybe the efforts is not good enough. That is why I can join my also to call on the government and agencies, conflict groups to go back to drawing board and get the situation settled so that lives can resume normal. Meanwhile, I have just one question. This Boku conflict, is it a land dispute or chieftaincy, or what is the nature of the conflict? I think I would like to know, so that thank you very much.
Good evening, comrade, and thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Marzuk. You actually gave us a lot of things we need to think about. So, I would like to start with last year BECE examination, where we actually have a lot of soldiers and policemen guiding these students whilst they were writing their examination. I believe if these students had a choice, they would opt for a situation where at least one or two of the policemen are around to ensure law and order regarding examination, and not necessarily their safety. We need to understand that it's not all students that can accommodate this situation as normal, and this will take a long way to affect their performance and even their studies for this examination. See, it is so sad that Boku conflict now is taking a toll on children. The safety of children can no longer be guaranteed due to fateful gunshots, and even a burst of balu terrifies these children. Looking at the visuals, I mean the pictures, the videos, the things we see on social media, and even ourselves, like I'm from Boku, I was born and raised in Boku, the personal experience, the observation, we can say that children in Boku are traumatized and somehow psychologically affected. And they can't learn. I mean, I was born and raised from Boku, and this is not a story to talk about home. Back in 2012, I mean 2012, yeah, it was really difficult for us to go to school. And even if you go to school today, you have to wait for 1 week or even 2 weeks before you can go to school. And if you're going to school, you don't have that kind of happiness within you, you are not excited, you don't have the confidence to even go to school and learn. The moment you step out of the house, you are thinking about what is going to happen. And even before you leave the house, your parents are going to advise you that please, when you hear anything, make sure you pass this way. Please, I'll wait for you on, in so and so house. And it's not nice because you come to school and you are not prepared. Your mind is not prepared. You're only thinking about what is going to happen. And sometimes even a rumor, a fake, like I mean something like a rumor in the school can cause the whole school to dismiss. I mean, everybody will just go on their way without even telling the teachers, because when this thing starts, you don't even see the teachers around. Everybody will start running, finding their way out. Sometimes misplacement, like children will get misplaced, and parents will be roaming around crying and looking for their children. And I think this is not good. This is something that we have to look up to, because it's not giving the children the mindset to have a better education. And I remember one of our comrades talk about the books. Yes, it's true. You can't even go out to buy provision. Can you go out and buy books? You can't. And this is like most students now are like dropping out of school. If you go there at home, and the only business they do is this yellow, that motto, they call it pragia. That's the only work they do now in Boku. They go back, they don't even care about education. I don't know, looking at the eyes of like the youth in Boku, you feel like they don't have like visions and missions. You don't know, when you talk to them about education, it's just like you can feel this kind of reluctance in them. And it's not good, because when we are talking about education, we are talking about effective education, but not just only education. So on this note, I think something has to be done so that we can keep the issue of Boku, so children can have a peace of mind to have their studies, because these children, they are the future of the nation, and we have to do something about it. This is what I can say. Thank you.
Thank you, comrade. My name is Comrade Frank. And what I would say is that, you see, we have a whole minister who is in charge of Upper East, who happens to also be the board chairman of, be on the board of council, the security committee in that region. What is he really doing about that situation? Yesterday, Mr. President was boasting of how do you call it, freedom in our country without any conflict and all that. But then Boko is a threatening thing that is really affecting our national security. It happens to be on the two, as my brother said, that it has two borders. That is a border to Togo and another border to Burkina Faso. What are we really doing about it? Are we going to sit down for this to escalate? Then we set up an ad hoc committee, a committee that they will be paying 20,000 Ghana cedis for a certain meeting and all that, and then yet the people in Boko are not having the zeal or even the freedom to walk freely. For us in the southern here, you can go anywhere, but then can anyone in Boko, like a child in Boko, even when he's stepping out of the room, he has in a grave that something can happen. What are we doing about it? This is something that we should really think about it. It's something of a national interest. We shouldn't leave it in we should treat it as a mere thing that, oh, as we always say, oh, Boko, the north, all those areas is a violence prone areas. No, it shouldn't be like that. It is something that we should pay attention to. So on this note, I'm trying to call on the board chair, the minister for Upper East, the national, police commander in the Upper East, and all those security agencies, that when they meet, what are they discussing at? I'm just pleading that they should take this matter at heart and then revert back to it quickly before it's run out of hands. Thank you.
Okay, so right now we'll call on Hack to give us comments from our social media, and then we'll invite Dr. Mohammed Abubakar to ramp up the whole discussions for us.
Okay, thank you. There's a lot of messages coming in, all praising Dr. Abubakar Marzouk and saying what an excellent presentation it is you've given us today. And this is coming from our Facebook platforms. I'll read a few because we are running out of time already. Mr. Ibrahim says the situation in Boku must end along with all other conflicts across Ghana and Africa. Frank says very insightful. This is also coming from Ko Mensa Pilatu. He says Akufo-Addo government. Well, okay, that's Akufo-Addo government. A lot of other things. Susanna was saying there was no sign. I hope you resolved that earlier on. Okay, this is also coming from Mr. Ibrahim. He says it's important to note that conflict entrenches capitalist exploitation, and what's happening in Boku is no different. We all know that this conflict didn't start in 2020, 2022 or 2023. It's a conflict which dates back decades, and the only reason why this conflict and other conflicts remain persistent is because they entrench capitalism and ensure the continuity of a system that oppresses and dominates us politically and economically. Fad Mohammed says, thank you so much, Dr. Marzouk. Well, we're thanking you here for this. Is also coming from Edem Kwashi from Socialist Movement of Ghana, Comrade Edem Kwashi in Likpi in the Guan district, Oti region. Insightful comments by Dr. Marzouk. The conflict in Baku must end. We should stop killing ourselves. When we continue to do this, we undermine our future. We have a continent to unite. Enough of the division and conflict in Baku. Africa must rise above tribalism and fulfill the vision of our founding fathers. Ghana must set an example. Ghana must set a good example. Yeah, I think that's it. This is coming from Sit. I hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly. Please, we enjoyed the show and also help us work on the sound. I think we also addressed that already earlier on. Abdul Razak says, thank you so much. And Abdullahi Akudugu, I'm sorry if it's wrong also. He says that's a brilliant presentation. And also there's no sound on Facebook. I think we addressed that. I think we are streaming on Facebook and on YouTube also. So if you are unable to hear, you can maybe take a switch to the YouTube page and also watch us from there. Fixed home. Well, you are sending us a lot of messages here. I'll take a few also from our WhatsApp platform. Okay, so a lot of messages are coming in. Yes, insightful comment by Dr. Marzouk. Thank you for the presentation, and that's from, next time add your name so that we can mention it for our viewers. Dennis Aninkru. Okay, Dennis Aninkru is saying that thank you for the presentation. I am trying to get Pan-African Bookshop phone number. Pan-Africa doesn't have a bookshop, but there's a bookshop called Freedom Bookshop, and it's on the Asylum Down, right, on the Laimomo Street. Yes, Laimomo Street. I'm sure they will share the directions to you or give you the Google Map address after the program. Thank you for your message. This simply says hi. That's IB. Well, hi to you too, IB. And we have a lot more coming in, but I will leave it here and then leave our comrade to. Thank you.
All right, I think we just have a little time with us. I think about 10 minutes. So we'll give comrade Dr. Mohammed Marzouk maximum of 5 minutes to wrap up the whole discussion. You're welcome.
Once again, thank you. I am highly thankful to all of you and humbled by all compliments. I start with the answer to your question. It is very disheartening to answer that question, but it is what I call the bitter reality. The conflict is mainly ethno-chieftaincy. Ethnic because it involves two ethnic groups. I don't want to mention the names. Chieftaincy because it is about who rules Boko traditionally. So that is the nature of the conflict. And we pray and work hard to find a lasting solution. Hamida Apusiga mentioned education, and then she mentioned examination. With all humility, that falls within my expertise, with all humility. And educational scientists and experts of examination are of the view that in every examination, we face two forms of tensions. The anticipated tension that arises before the paper and is very practical. You all have experienced such a tension. Anytime at all you have a paper to write, before the paper you'll be thinking about the paper, you'll be thinking how to tackle it, which questions will fall, how to handle those questions. Those things will constitute what we call anticipated tension. And then when you come to the classroom, before the anticipated tension vanishes, immediately after you are asked to start the paper, and it gives way to situational tension. The tension doesn't go, it changes. The one you anticipated ends. Now you are confronted with the reality. and that becomes a situational tension. It is unacceptable for soldiers, for even wicked invigilators to add to the situational tension. Very unacceptable. When that happens, it affects the performance of the candidate. And that is how serious the conflict has become. I have enjoyed the interventions of the contribution and the intervention of all of you, all those who have spoken. You have all spoken sense. And I'm happy that all of you are members of the youth group. It is a responsibility for all of us, all, elderly, the youth, the weak, the strong, all of us. It's our responsibility. But once again, let me repeat, any conflict affects the youth more than any other age group, because we are active. We constitute the labor force. Our sisters who are advocates of sexist language are saying that we shouldn't use man force because it amounts to discrimination, linguistic discrimination or semantic discrimination. So we beg you, we won't say man, we won't say manpower. We will say labor force. To satisfy your demand for linguistic equality in terms of usage. So labor force is highly affected when children are negatively impacted by any conflict. I have been given 5 minutes. I promise to use less than that. On this note, brothers and sisters, let me reiterate my words that we have a responsibility, a collective one indeed, to protect and maintain peace in Boko. And when we all resolve to do that, in the end, we will not remember the discomfort of our struggle, but the comfort of our victory. Thank you all once again, and peace be unto all of us. Amen.
All right, all too soon we have come to another end of Wednesday Palaver. Last week Friday, the collective discussed this issue extensively and asked one of the most important questions: what do we do as a form of an intervention to this glaring conflict? And we decided that we should invite Dr. Mohammed Mazouk to lead us in this very important deliberation. And I think that has been very, very successful. We thank you so much for your input. We will give the feedback to the collective and see what happens next. So we also are thankful to all our viewers who are watching us at home on social media. It's always a pleasure when we receive your comments on Wednesday Palaver. So we'll see you again next week, but don't forget to keep your dial on Pan-African Television. Red salute and see you next week. Okay, Doctor.